Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Missouri, Ms. Wagner, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, panelists. This committee has received voluminous testimony from corporate CFOs, community banks, and academic experts that the costs of the Volker Rule will dwarf its highly speculative benefits, and that the rule will do significant damage to job creators and to our economy. In fact, the chairman referenced in his opening statement the academic research conducted by Washington University in St. Louis, my district, that concluded that the Volker Rule will take $800 billion out of the economy. Now, given the extensive evidence and testimony from those on the ground that the Volker Rule will do far more harm than good, and given that you did not do a formal cost-benefit analysis, can someone on the panel please let me know what your evidence is to the contrary? Because I can't find the benefits in your 932-page rule. Chair White?
I'm up here to say this, and as I said, earlier, obviously there was, to begin with, a congressional, judgment made to require the Volker Rule. The agencies are all charged with, carrying that out in the to be both faithful to the statutory mandate, but also very, which is part of the statutory mandate, also very sensitive to the exemptions from that rule. We clearly, all of us in the process of this rulemaking, from the proposal stage to the adoption stage, solicited information and data and analyzed data on the impacts.
What are the results of those,
of that
data?
Well, I mean, I think some of the results of that that inquiry and analysis led to changes that I've talked about earlier in order to reduce some of the negative impacts of the rule, the costly impacts of the rule. So, but we begin with a statutory mandate to carry it out.
I listened to some of your testimony, and specific to the SEC, Chair White, I think you said you thoroughly addressed the economic considerations of the rule, and I'm trying to figure out where that is. Has a formal cost-benefit analysis been done on this by the agencies?
I mean, it depends, I guess, to some extent, what you mean by, formal cost-benefit analysis. I mean, the statute.
Where's the report?
The statute under which
the research? Where's the information? Where's the report?
The statute under which we enacted the rule was the Bank Holding Company Act. It doesn't specifically require or even implicitly require a formal cost-benefit analysis. What we did do, all 5 agencies did do, was to tee up a full range of questions as to the economic impacts, solicited the data, and if you look at the adopting release, you will see those discussed throughout in terms of the agency's thinking on that and conclusions on that.
Well, a lot of others have sure done analyses of these, and all I'm seeing are costs coming from the business side, from the academic side, from many experts on this, and I would be very interested in knowing just where specifically in all the analysis that you've done, where the benefit side of this is. I would submit that this is a very costly rule to our economy and to the American people. Turning to something different, following up on Mr. Mulvaney's line of questioning, I'm a little concerned about this working group and who has the power of enforcement, what lanes each one of your agencies are staying in. Who's in charge of the working group that you formed? Have you formed a working group?
Yes, but by definition, I mean, as with all interagency committees, the agencies are independent, and they each have a role which has been given by staff. Who's
in charge of the working group?
Nobody is in charge of the working group.
Have each of you assigned somebody to the working group?
Yes.
Yes.
So you have a list of those who are assigned on this working group. For instance, will the SEC's Enforcement Division have to consult with the working group before opening a Volker Rule investigation?
The answer to that is we are not required to do that, no. We're an independent agency and are not required to do that. Again, however, everyone is focused on consistency, across the agencies.
You're focused on consistency. You each have your areas of jurisdiction. You say you formed a working group. I'm just confused as to who has the power of enforcement and what happens when you differ in, Perfect example. Let's say the OCC approves a trade or a trading strategy that a bank is doing, and then 6 months later, the SEC comes in and says that those trades were in violation of the Volker Rule. How do you resolve that conflict?
At the OCC, we supervise the national bank. We have the authority, and we examine on a regular basis to see if they're in compliance with all rules, including the Volker Rule. If they're in violation of it, we have the enforcement authority. If it's a question of judgment as to whether
Time of the gentlelady has expired. The chair now recognizes